Welcome to Topper Talk, your number one Western Kentucky athletics podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Moffitt, and I'm joined by co-host Tyler Bailey. Hilltopper Nation, whether it's happening on the hill or on the road, grab those red towels, stand up and cheer, because it's up next on Topper Talk. Welcome back, and thank you for downloading and listening to another episode of the Topper Talk podcast. As always, follow us on Twitter and Instagram and TikTok at Topper_Talk. Also, find us on Facebook at Topper Talk. Then we're also on a YouTube channel at Topper Talk Podcast. Feel free to rate, subscribe, review every episode. Helps out with those algorithms, try to push us up, get those numbers up. Share the episodes, tell a friend. As always, we'd appreciate that. We've got Tyler here with me. We're going to jump into a fun episode today. You ready, Tyler?
Yeah, man, it's always fun talking about beating MTSU's butt.
Before we do that, let's get a quick word from our sponsor, and that is the Fireman Moving Company. They are the official moving company of WKU Athletics. Not only can they be trusted to move all the coaches in and out of Western, but they can move you anywhere nationwide. The Fireman Moving Company is owned and operated by firemen and is founded by WKU alumni. If you are looking to move sometime soon, give them a call at 270-791-1755 and get yourself a free quote. Again, as always, I promise you, best call you'll make, best money you'll spend. They would just make your life as far as moving, big or small, near or far. They're going to make that a lot easier for you. Now let's jump into our main segment of the episode, and that is recapping the basketball game that we just played earlier today. As we record late Saturday night. Obviously, this episode will come out Sunday, but we hosted MTSU at Diddle Arena at 7 p.m. Saturday night for the 100 Miles of Hate rivalry. This was the 145th edition. This game had been being played since 1914. WKU now leads the series overall record 99 wins and 46 losses. So more than a 2-1 win ratio there. So just dominant all time. And this game played out no different. WKU had a convincing, dare I call it, dominating win, 88-65 over MTSU. We moved to 15-7 on the season. Now back to 4-4 in conference play. Middle Tennessee has dropped to 8-14 on the season and 2-5 in Conference USA play. And I gotta say, this crowd for the game, the atmosphere, WKU had announced they were going to do $10 tickets for the Red Out. Then earlier today, before the game, they announced that there were only 500 tickets left. And I saw that post, and I was like, man, there's no way. It's not going to be that crazy because, the Sam Houston game wasn't great. 4,000 fans ish. Great student section, but the rest just, wasn't that good. But was really impressed by the, you could just tell driving up to Diddle, when Nashville Road's backed all the way up to Cheddar's and you get through the roundabout and trying to get to the parking garage and it's backed up, you got to get in that left-hand lane to get to the parking garage. People going PS2, you got to bypass them, get the PS1. You could tell, like, okay, this crowd's going to be pretty good. They ended up announcing 55-27 was the announced crowd. It was really, really solid. I thought it was close to 6,000. It was, pretty close with it, arm's reach. Just a solid crowd. They brought a lot of energy. They were loud, boisterous when calls didn't go our way. But just a really, really good crowd. Love to see it. Best crowd of the season, and it's a crowd that we need to continue coming back. Really cool atmosphere of this game. They did honor the 65 and 66 and 67 OVC basketball championship teams. They brought up the softball and baseball teams, honored them because their season is about to kick off. And then they also brought out the football team and the famous Toaster Bowl trophy and just got to show that off in front of the crowd during one of the media timeouts. So just overall, just a great night, a great ball game. Always good to beat MTSU, send them packing home with a loss. So, Tyler, how'd this game play out to you? I know you're watching and listening from work. How was it for you, this big victory?
Well, at the end of the first half, we're sitting there tied 38-38, and we survived that barrage of 3-point shots that MTSU was hitting, and they actually in the first half they hit 8 of 23, so they were shooting 40%. And I think their leading scorer at that time was Jordan, which he came off the bench, and on the radio they were like, I think he hit one of his 10, so he was shooting 10% from 3-point land, and he comes out and he hits 4 of 6 from 3 points. So he had his, I guess, season high of 16 points at halftime. He finished with 22. Porter, he was the only player that had double figures at the end of the first half. And then we came out and just completely dominated that fourth quarter. I was hoping we get to the 90 burger, because I think I called it like 90. It was somewhere in the mid 90s to like 63, because I was originally going to give him 58. But this game, you couldn't ask for a better game as a Western fan, especially that second half. We only had 9 turnovers, which is, I think, is a season low. Really mind blowing there. We was aggressive. We got to the free throw line, which we needed to do. There's nothing that I don't like. And Tegan Moore, he just keeps surprising whenever he comes off the bench. He dives on the floor after loose balls, just a real blue collar type player, and that's a player that I can get behind. I think the future is very bright for that player. I hope it is. Rodney Howard, he played like a man possessed down there. Derek, I'm gonna call him Chef Henry. He was cooking in that second half. I mean, he at halftime, I think let's see, at halftime he only had 2 points. He did not attempt a 3-pointer in the first half. He was 1 of 4. He came out in the second half, and I think within the first like 3 or 4 minutes, in the first 5 minutes, he had like 12 points. So it was going to be a big night for that. Was an indicator for me in the second half. Whenever he came out and he just started getting points and points and points, I knew right then we wasn't going to lose that game. And then, of course, you had MTSU players. They committed some turnovers. They were kind of fighting with each other, getting on each other. That's just a bad indicator. Even from listening, I was like, this game's over. There's no chance for them. And then they started throwing up desperation threes, and they ended up finally shooting 26.2% from 3-point land. So at halftime, like I said, we survived that barrage. We got to the free throw lines at halftime. We was 8 of 8, so 100%. And I just knew we wasn't going to lose that game. So it was a great game overall, though. Oh my gosh, I love that game.
Yeah, I mean, it was an awesome game. Again, you beat MTSU. They swept us last year. That hadn't happened in a while, it feels like. But that game's always competitive and it's always intense. And this one was no different. Like you said, the first half was kind of a back and forth battle. I believe MTSU's largest lead in the game was 7, if I'm not mistaken, but we went into half tied at 38-38. And when you start breaking down the halftime stats, the real big thing that jumps out to you, and you mentioned it, was the 3-pointers. They made 8 threes in the first half that really that kept them in the game. When they shoot 8 of 20, they're 40% in the first half. That's the only reason that we didn't pull away and have a big lead in the first half, and that kind of equalized itself in the second half. Like you said, Don McHenry, who sat most of that first half, he had 2 fouls, came out of the game, put in Jack, let Jack run the point, and he did a very good job just getting the ball up the court quickly, distributing it, finding guys open, not turning the ball over. So kudos to Jack. But then Don McHenry came out in that second half and was just a man possessed. I mean, he was pulling up for threes, heat checking, driving to the lane, pulling up floaters, mid range. He was doing it all. And I'm not mad at him. The preview for this game, he was my MVT. I thought we needed the straw that stirs the drink to be the man. And then, like you said, the 3-point defense definitely improved that second half. We were better about rotating, getting hands up. They did hit some tough shots, but their 3-point percentage went from 40% for the game in the first half down to in the 20%, like you mentioned earlier. So really pulled away and help us increase that lead to 8 to 10 real quick, and then it went to 12 to 13, got up to 20, and that's we were able to keep our pedal on the gas, keep our foot on the gas, and finish that game. We've seen all too many times this year we've had that big lead, at the 12 under, at the 8 under timeout, and then we slow it down, we turn the ball over, other teams make shots, and they get back in the game. But we were able to not do that this game, and it was nice to see. In the post game presser, Steve Lutz said, that was probably our best defensive half of basketball, and I don't disagree with him. I think the FIU game was, last week was probably our best offensive game we played all year, and this one was probably our best defensive game. I think that first half wasn't terrible. It wasn't great, but it wasn't terrible. But the second half was locked down, clamped, and really put this game away. Now, looking at player stats, obviously we mentioned Don McHenry just coming out man possessed, finished with 22 points on the night, 5 out of 6 from 3. So just heat checking. Rodney Howard, again, another big game. It seems like he's just stacking big games now. He finished with 16 points and 5 rebounds. He was 6 out of 13 from the field. So just really efficient. He's getting really comfortable with his back to the basket, and just making good plays, and even some offensive rebounds, some tips. Tyrone Marshall had 12 points. He had 5 rebounds, 3 assists. He also had a couple huge dunks that just excited Ditto Arena, got everybody loud, got everybody off their feet, and just that energy that we needed. He brought it. He's kind of that Josh Anderson, that electric guy that when you need to play, he's making it. And then rounding out our double-digit scores, we also had Dante Allen, finished with 10 points. He also had 6 rebounds, and was 2 out of 3 from the 3-point line. So just really good effort. How did you feel about these guys, and maybe even some of the other guys? Just this offensive output and just the whole effort for the game.
I mentioned this in or on a tweet. We were shooting 22% from 3-point land at halftime. So whenever you came out and Don McHenry started hitting 3 back to back, I knew it was going to be a good night. Like I said earlier, all these players I'm really happy with. Dante Allen, he scored 10 points. He's getting rebounds. He was actually our second leading rebounder on the night, first being Enoch, which is good to see him, giving into the team, 8 points, 7 rebounds. The person that I was kind of surprised really was Brandon Newman. Granted, he was 0 of 7 0 of 5 from 3-point land, 0 of 7 from the field. So not a really good shooting night. And he only had 3 rebounds, 2 assists, and 1 steal. But he did commit 2 turnovers. Babacar, he gave 7 points in the effort, and he ended up getting 3 rebounds. Randy and Hale, they were talking about how Babacar is actually the better defender and better rebounder in the post. But I mean, I really like Rodney Howard. I think he has a big body, and they also mentioned he's hit. This was still earlier in the first half, but he hit 23 of 27 shots that he attempted in the last 6 games, and he's shooting 85%. Right now he has a hot hand, and he's dominating the paint, which I really appreciate as a post player myself. I do wish he would. It's double season, and I'm just waiting for it to happen, because the night it happens, it's going to be a great game. We were offensively rebounded. We were, MTSU did get more offensive rebounds, and you'll probably talk about that in the key indicators. But really, Tegan Moore coming off the bench with 6 points, 3 rebounds, 1 assist. I know on the radio, him and Rodney were kind of passing back and forth to each other. So it's good to see that type of camaraderie, if you would. It's just I just and Jack Edelin's brother on the radio, they announced that he was on campus this weekend, and they were like, I think it was Hal said he's bigger and he could be better than Jack. So that's something to look forward to. Hopefully he comes here. I'm not really breaking any news with that since it's public knowledge, but there's not a player on this roster that played tonight. I mean, heck, even Fluff and Jalen Dorsey got in. Fluff hit that 3-point shot, which awesome, and Dorsey had that layup, or that I know he hit a 2-pointer. But no, I think all these players that played tonight, maybe but one, because he was kind of I'm not gonna say a no-show, but he had a bad offensive night and he didn't really rebound like he should, like he normally do, being the leading rebounder. I mean, Marshall, 12 points, 4 rebounds. Henry just lit up in the second half. And Hired, I'm thrilled with these player stats, man.
Yeah, I wasn't going to let us get out of here without bringing up Fluff and without bringing up Jalen. Yeah, Fluff came in. I think there was about 2 minutes left in the game. Put him and Jalen in. He immediately went to that corner, got kicked the ball real quick. I mean, as soon as he got it, no hesitation, he put that thing up. He had that thing on him. I think I tweeted out. Went in, crowd went wild. He went down the court, just arms out. You can just see the love, the team giving him love, the crowd obviously giving him love. Then Jalen, I think it was the next possession down the court, he had just a tough driving layup, went to the goal, and with contact made the basket. So great game, great output by a lot of players tonight. Really good to see. We didn't mention we were without Christian Lander again, still concussion protocol, or at least that's what's being reported. So without him, other guys stepping up, and that's what has to happen. Now, looking at those key indicators, you did mention we out rebounded MTSU. That was, I think both of us talked about that in the key to victory. We out rebounded them 38-34. Turnovers, you also mentioned that we had 9 on the game. Like you said, I'm pretty sure that was probably our lowest turnover output of the game. I said if we can keep that number, 10 to 12, 12 to 15, it's going to put us in a lot better position to win the game. We had 9 turnovers, they had 14, so we were +5 there on the turnovers. Still, though, when you look at the shots, possessions, due to those offensive rebounds, MTSU did have 4 more shots than us. They were 22 out of 66. We were 31 out of 62. But we shot 50%. And then you talked about the 3-pointers as well. We were 8 out of 19, so we didn't jack up a ton of them, but we made 42%. Whereas MTSU was 11 out of 42. Again, after they started out hot with 8 in the first half, 8 out of 20. They only made 3 out of 22 in the second half and ended up at 26.2%. So just a lot of good stuff to like there. Pretty much everything key to victory wise that we talked about, rebounding, turnovers, then even the free throw margin. I didn't mention that. We shot 18 out of 22 from the free throw line. So got to the line a lot and made most of them, which was encouraging. And MTSU only got to the line 12 times. So we made more than they attempted, kind of the old adage of just, we're more aggressive and taking advantage of those free throws. Now let's jump into some grades for this ball game. Tyler, what have you got for the offense versus MTSU?
Well, offense is a hint, or a little. It's all going to be good. The offense, I'm going to give them an A+. It was a good team effort. With 3 players in double figures, and 8, 6, 7. I mean, only 9 turnovers. 14 assists. They're definitely getting an A+ in my book.
Yeah, the offense scored 88 points. Just really efficient from shooting 2, shooting 3s from the free throw line, 9 turnovers. I think 3 of those were in the second half, if I'm not mistaken. I think there was 6 in the first half, 3 in the second half. So just really took care of the ball. We've seen games down the stretch where we just go through lapses of just turn the ball over and let the other team get back in the game. But this game, we kind of showed when we're clicking in all facets of the game and everything that we're focusing on, that we can be pretty good and pretty deadly and probably beat most anybody and everybody in Conference USA if we play to that level. So offense is definitely getting an A for me as well. What about defensively?
Defense in the first half, it was a little bit down, but we did recover over halftime and held them to 65, which is right around their season average, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, I think it's a little bit above their season average. I think because they allow more than they score, because they got that loser mentality and screw them. I'm going to, and I mean, we held them to 26.2% 3-point shooting, 33.3% field goal, and 80. Well, free throw, you really can't do none. That's more mental right there. I'm going to give defense an A+ as well.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I mean, turnovers, we forced more than what we had. We scored 21 points off of turnovers. Their shooting percentages were low. Granted, the first half was a little higher, but the second half, that's where we made the money. That's where we pulled away and really stepped on their throats, so to speak. So yeah, defensively is easily an A for me. What about the coaching in this game?
Well, I think the coach is getting an A as well. I mean, they went in there at halftime. They made the adjustments that they needed to make. I'm going to talk about overall the points we got in the paint and based on the free throw line. I think they had a great game plan together for MTSU, and I'm going to give them an A as well.
Yeah, the coaches definitely had the right game plan, kept everybody focused. There were stretches of time where we were feeding Babacar and Rodney down low, taking advantage, end up getting their big guy in foul trouble there towards the end of the game. Those guys were really efficient. And then there were times where we were spreading the ball, letting Don get some shots up, Dante get some shots up, Tyrone was making plays. Just a great all-around effort, and the coaches have to get the credit from that if they're going to get the brunt of it when we're not executing. So coaches definitely get an A from me. What about this crowd versus MTSU? What's your grade?
Well, on the radio, Hal and Randy were talking, and I kept hearing some fans right behind them. And there was one time when Porter fouled. I can't remember what player he fouled, but the fans was really letting Porter hear about it. They was like, "Yeah, you did it. You fouled him." It was there in the second half, kind of about midway, I believe. I do wish it was a absolute sellout. I'm kind of like what you said last podcast. I'm kind of greedy when it comes to it. This is a big rivalry game. There's a lot of hatred there. If it was a sellout, definitely be an A. I'm probably going to go with a B on this. I mean, yes, they were loud. I heard them over the radio. It was very noticeable that they were there, but I wish more people would have been there at the game.
Yeah, I wish more people were there. I want 7,000 every game. It felt like a 6,000 person crowd. Just being there, feeling the energy, just seeing everybody. My section 215 was pretty tightly packed over there. Normally it's pretty loosey goosey, kind of spread out, lean back and get comfortable. But we were asses to elbows, as they say, pretty tight. So the crowd size didn't bother me. Obviously, I wish it was more. Until it's a sellout, I'm going to wish it was more. But the energy that they brought was amazing from tip to final whistle. I'm giving them an A. I mean, the crowd was great. Who was there was great. Obviously, I wish there was more. That will never change. But they're getting an A for me. What about the overall grade for this victory versus MTSU?
All right, so this is something that I was going to put in the offensive side. Between points in the paint and from the free throw line, we scored 64 of our 88 points, which is impressive as hell to me. I think it was 2 games ago, we scored like 75. Yeah, it was FIU. We scored like 75 or 76 points from between the paint and free throw line. That's awesome. Defense, I gave them an A plus. I gave offensive A plus. I gave coaching an A. So it's got to be an A plus for me, man, for overall team performance and crowd and everything. It's got to be an A plus for me.
Yep, right there with you. It's hard to argue that. I mean, this game was a good performance, in every facet of the game. Like I said, offense, defense, coaching, the crowd, the atmosphere. So it's definitely an A game for me. Nice to get back in the win column after, a disappointing loss to Sam Houston, that ended our, perfect home winning streak that we had this season. Disappointing loss to them, but nice to get back on track, beat those Blue Raiders from Murfreesboro. We sent them back home. Didn't mention they did have a small gap, not a lot of people. They probably had 50-ish if I was guessing, just, seeing blue spattered around the arena. There were a couple right beside me. They were pretty quiet the entire game. They didn't have any reason to get loud. That was probably in their best interest. But, in my opinion, this rivalry is better when both teams are really good, really competitive. When that happens, both teams travel really well to each other. I've seen times where they've had, 300-400 people in Diddle, and I've seen times where we've had that many people there in Murfreesboro. So, I think here lately, the last 5 to 10 years, we've seen stretches of our team being good and them not so good, and them being decent and us not as good as we can be and have been in years past. It's been a while since we've both been on the uptick and really good, really strong there at the same time. I know their coach, Nick McDevitt, has just kind of struggled while he's been the coach there, especially on the road. He's not won a lot of games, but his loss, our game, we won. Now we're, kind of right back in the driver's seat of we've got to go on the road. I know we have a big game coming up that we'll preview versus Louisiana Tech next week. We'll talk about that, just how tough that's going to be. It's always tough to win in Ruston, whether it's football, whether it's basketball. We just haven't done it a lot in any sport. So that's going to be a big one. They were, a preseason favorite with Liberty and ourselves, preseason player of the year in Crawford. And right now they're starting to separate themselves from the pack in Conference USA. So it's not a must win, but it would be a really nice win to go knock them off on the road because that's not happening right now a lot in Conference USA. I think there was only one road victory this weekend. I think that was Liberty beat UTEP. So life on the road is hard, and it's not going to get any easier. Eventually, if we want to turn the corner on this season and work our way up the standings before the conference tournament, we have to go on the road. We have to win. We've proven we can win at home. We just haven't done it away from Diddle Arena. But we've seen how we can play. When we play like we did tonight, we can beat anybody. We just have to take that same energy, that same intensity, that same focus, that same execution. It has to travel with us on the road. And eventually we've got to get a win. That just has to happen. There's still a lot ahead of us. Anything can happen this season. Obviously, we've got to win a conference tournament to get to the big dance, but that's still possible. I'm not counting us out. I think we surely can do that. I think we've seen early this season, we saw glimpses of really good basketball, and now we're starting to put together for, complete halves. And now, this MTSU game and the FIU game was almost complete games of just really good offensively and really good long stretches of defensive intensity. So it's coming together. We're playing our best basketball now, even after a tough loss to Sam Houston. Let's keep stacking the good games and look forward to the next one. But, for now, we beat MTSU. Always good to beat them in the 100 miles. Hey, Tyler, give us your final words and take us out of here.
All right. So we are currently 2.5 games behind being out of first place. Louisiana Tech, 6-1 conference. Sam Houston follows them 6-2. New Mexico State is above us in 5-3. So, and we are 4-4. So you're right. We have 8 games remaining on the season in conference play, in conference regular season. We can't get no more against Sam Houston until maybe conference championship or conference tournament. But I mean, it would be a great place to knock. It'd be a great thing to knock La Tech off their high horse this next week down there, and then bring them back on the 28th of February and beat them again. It'd just be a really good way to continue the season. But it is always a pleasure and just an amazing feeling whenever we beat MTSU. Reggie Upshaw Jr. He's actually still on the MTSU bench. He's on the staff there. Randy and Hal went over and talked to him both separately tonight, according to what they said on the radio. And they're towards the end of the game, whenever we were just absolutely stomping them, they said he just hung his head and he, just looking down at the ground. Good. I hope he likes that feeling, because this season, even when we go down there February 24th, I do not see them actually. I think that could be a closer game, but I still think we're going to win it. I mean, the future's still bright for this Hilltopper team. You still have some chances to come see them at home. We got 3 more home games on the season. So if you ain't got a ticket yet to, let's see, UTEP, New Mexico State, or La Tech, you better get them, because I'm hoping they start making some noise and the fans really buy into what Lutz and the team's really putting out there, because it would be nice to have a sellout one time before the season ends, because this team is energetic, it's fun to watch, and I'm hoping for a ESPN top play of the day in one of Marshall's dunks for him tonight. So with that, I will say, screw you, MTSU, piss on you, and Moff, who has it better than us?
Nobody, buddy. You always know it.
Go Tops.
Go Tops. Later, guys.
See you.